Can you still picture the neon vacancy sign flickering in the dusk, beckoning weary travelers to pull in for a night's rest beside the hum of a distant highway? The 1950s was the golden age of America's open road, where the scent of gasoline mingled with the crisp night air, and every tidy parking lot promised comfort and a slice of adventure. Roadside motels were more than just stopovers. They were treasured bookmarks on family journeys, with bright shuffleboard courts, coin-operated ice machines, and pastel-colored doors on every room. These mom-and-pop oases brought a sense of possibility. Each key on a jangling ring was an entry to new stories and unforgettable sights. Do you remember falling asleep to the gentle whir of an old air conditioner, or the thrill of finding a mint on the pillow after a long day's drive? The world just seemed bigger then, and every small-town motel felt like the gateway to somewhere exciting. So what made these simple roadside stops stick in our memories all these years later? Let's venture back and rediscover the magic of the American motel. Let's begin by pulling the car back a few decades, rolling slowly down those two-lane ribbons of asphalt that began to crisscross the country after World War II. Before roadside motels became a staple of the American landscape in the 1950s, travel looked a lot different. In the early 20th century, long-distance journeys were a true undertaking. Trains and buses ruled the road, and travelers relied heavily on big city hotels or rustic makeshift auto camps. Families packed up their new Fords and Chevys to venture into the unknown, sometimes pitching tents or sleeping in their cars alongside dirt roads and open fields. The idea of a standardized, affordable place to sleep wherever your adventures took you, that was nothing short of revolutionary. The explosive popularity of automobiles fueled this change. Just after World War II, car ownership in the United States skyrocketed. By 1950, there were over 40 million passenger vehicles on American roads, almost double the number from just a decade earlier. These numbers transformed not only how families traveled, but where they chose to stop for the night. Motels, short for motor hotels, emerged in response to this new era of mobility, perfectly blending convenience and comfort for folks who didn't want to stray far from their beloved cars. Motels were uniquely American. Unlike stately city hotels or familiar inns dotting the old highways, motels embraced a different approach. They popped up on the outskirts of towns, often just minutes from major highways, with parking spots right outside each room. This meant luggage could be easily stashed and retrieved with zero fuss, a godsend for road-tripping families. Their low-slung architecture, angular lines, and bright signage became part of the American visual lexicon, each one promising a fresh start in the morning, no matter how unfamiliar the surroundings. You might not believe this, but the earliest motels were incredibly innovative for their time. The very first one, the Motel Inn of San Luis Obispo, opened in 1925, charging guests $1.25 a night. While the concept took hold slowly at first, by the late 1940s and early 50s, a new wave of energetic entrepreneurs, many of them young, returning veterans with dreams and a bit of GI Bill funding, began building their own small, friendly motor courts along every highway and byway. Some authoritative estimates put the number of roadside accommodations by the end of the 1950s at well over 60,000 across the country. That's one new motel for nearly every square mile of road, built in a post-war America primed for adventure. Did you ever wonder why so many motels from this era featured the word court or inn on their neon signs like Sunset Motor Court or Bluebird Inn? This was more than just clever marketing. In fact, the term motor court comes from the original U-shaped design many motels employed, creating a friendly, safe enclosed area where cars could be parked and children could play within sight of their parents' rooms. It was a subtle nod to the small communal feel of early travel lodges, just updated for the jet-age speed of the family sedan. For much of the 1950s, the rise of the motel was inextricably tied to the story of the Interstate Highway System. Announced by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1956, this ambitious network of superhighways supercharged cross-country travel as no rail line or wagon route ever had before. Did you know Eisenhower's own fascination with highways dated back to a grueling 1919 Army convoy he'd experienced, a trek averaging just 5 miles per hour from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco? By the time the first concrete lanes of Interstate 70 opened, motels dotted every exit, their neon promises welcoming vacationers, salesmen, and dreamers alike. Even outside the major arteries, mom-and-pop motels flourished along legendary routes like Route 66, the Main Street of America, where each brightly colored inn seemed to compete for attention. Cool blue swimming pools, plastic palm trees, and playful shapes like wigwams, teepees, or even giant cowboy boots. Motels were not just places to rest, they became symbols of hospitality, innovation, and small business success across thousands of hometowns. It's almost hard to imagine now, but motel guests in the 50s rarely thought about brand loyalty. While today's travelers often flock to familiar chains, back then it was all about local flavor and individual charm. Every sign had its own flair, every room had quirks and personalities. Some rooms came with radios built into the wall, while others offered extra amenities like air cooling units, a real treat in the sweltering July heat. Surprisingly, the concept of color TV in a motel room was still years away, making even the promise of free ice or in-room telephones seem like a minor miracle. For every guest, each arrival carried that special sense of anticipation. What would the room look like? Would there be a playground or a pool? Could you spot a postcard at the front desk to mail home, a memento of your own slice of the open road? Do you remember checking in as the sun began to dip, the day's grime still on your legs, the promise of a shower and cool sheets feeling as welcome as a palace? But, of course, the history of America's roadside motels wasn't just about prosperity and optimism. Many small operators struggled against larger competitors and a changing travel landscape, even as the decade wore on. Some motels became faded relics almost overnight, ghosts guarding the edge of towns bypassed by newer, faster highways. There's a certain bittersweet beauty in recalling the promise of these simple establishments, each one, for a brief moment, a beacon for families crisscrossing the country under a big, hopeful sky. As we close this chapter on the early years, I can't help but wonder, did your family have a regular motel you looked for, trip after trip? Maybe a favorite stop where you always recognized the clerk, or a roadside stand with the best milkshakes right next door? In just a few short years, the roadside motel settled into its familiar groove. But what happened when American innovation came calling and these havens of hospitality began to change? With the times, if you thought the golden age was memorable, wait until you see how technology and imagination pushed these motels into a whole new realm. And so, as we reach the end of our journey back through the winding highways and small-town main streets of the 1950s, those glowing roadside motels stand as more than mere pit stops. They are treasured landmarks etched into our collective memory. We've looked back at how these humble establishments blossomed alongside surging highways, answering the spirit of freedom that defined the era. With their brightly painted doors, handwritten welcome, notes and the cheerful fizzle of neon signs, motels invited strangers to pause, rest, and enjoy a moment of connection, whether with a kindly innkeeper or a family squeezed into adjoining rooms, giddy from a day of exploration. These motels weren't just a place to sleep, They became the backdrops for countless slices of American life. Maybe you remember the feeling of waking up at dawn, the curtain edge aglow with sunlight sneaking into a tidy room, the anticipation of a fresh start right outside the door. From families setting out on their once-in-a-lifetime vacations, to traveling salesmen swapping stories under swinging porch lights, to kids plotting belly flops into postage stamp swimming pools out back, the true magic of the Roadside Motel was how it made everyone feel a little more at home, even hundreds of miles away. Beyond the crisp linens and the jingling room keys, these motels captured the energy of a country on the move, determined to see what lay beyond the next bend. In many ways, they mirrored the optimism, ingenuity, and warmth of post-war America, a land ready to embrace technology, hospitality, and a sense of wonder. Even as new hotel chains moved in and the country sped up, the best roadside motels kept their focus on simple joys: a clean room, a safe place to stop, maybe even a coin-operated soda machine to treat the kids after a long day's drive. Think about it. How many family legends began in a motel parking lot late at night when the crickets sang and the only light was that reassuring, buzzing vacancy sign? Maybe it was the giddy excitement of an unexpected stop, a shared story told years later around the dinner table, or the gentle push that nudged you farther down an unknown highway toward the next big adventure. Looking back, what do these motels mean to us now? They remind us not just of simpler times, but of the power of togetherness, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery. As those vintage signs fade and some of the old motor courts give way to progress, the memories linger, painted bright with that unmistakable 1950s charm. So I'd love to hear from you. Did you have a favorite motel you stopped at year after year? Was there a particular roadside sign, lobby, or midnight snack that stayed with you all these years? Share your motel memories in the comments. I bet your stories will bring back that sense of adventure for fellow travelers too. If you enjoyed this nostalgic ride, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another trip down memory lane. And if you know someone who'd love to reminisce about shared road trips and glowing neon lights, be sure to share this with them and keep those memories alive. There are plenty more journeys to come, filled with the familiar scents, sights, and sounds that help define our generations. Until next time, may you always find a warm bed, a friendly face, and a glowing sign lighting your way home, even if it's only in your memory.